It's Tuesday, November 11th, and happy Veterans Day to those in the U.S. But we are seeing some interesting price action take shape despite the holiday trade, and of course some key events to watch over the next 24 hours. So again, the big one is going to be the BOE inflation report, as we did see the central bank refrain from releasing a policy statement after retaining its current policy early on in the month. So we'll look for some more color surrounding the interest rate outlook. But for the most part, on the backdrop of weakening commodity prices, this growing threat for another recession in the Eurozone, the UK's largest trading partner, we'll see what the BOE will lay out. There's certainly pent-up expectations that we'll see the BOE curb its growth and inflation forecast, but nevertheless, we'll see what sort of tone they take for the monetary policy outlook, as it remains a race between the Federal Reserve and the BOE of who will normalize monetary policy first. But even ahead of that, we'll be keeping a close eye on the RBNZ, as they'll be coming out with their financial stability review. But even more than that, I'll be looking at the commentary from Governor Wheeler, as again, they continue on with the verbal intervention. So we'll see if Kiwi, we'll see some more jaw boning of the Kiwi later on tonight. But with that, some interesting headlines coming out of Japan. We're seeing the yen weaken across the board here, as again, Prime Minister Abe looks to further delay the sales tax hike, and as a result, looks as though there could be a real threat of a snap election in December. So we'll see how the fiscal situation continues to take shape even after the BOJ further expanded the asset purchase program. But again, all this to say, looks as though the near-term, long-term outlook for the yen remains bearish, and as a result, we'll continue to favor the top side targets for the dollar yen here. And again, with the bullish break on the RSI structure here, we favor the top side still. But on that, looks as though we could maybe potentially see a full retracement from the October highs of last year. So 117 and 93 comes into view here. We'll see if we can manage a run into that. But of course, we also have some Fed language to watch this week with a slew of doves, as we also have Miss Yellen as well as the Vice Chair, Mr. Stanley Fischer, on tap. So we'll see what we get on the Fed's end, especially with these growing headlines coming out of Japan. But even beyond that, again, with the RBNZ on tap, we'll continue to look for some more jaw boning from the RBNZ. But in light of today's price action, and despite some of the weakness that we're seeing in the greenback, we're still seeing the Kiwi dollar make this nice continued series of lower highs. We'll be mindful of that. And of course, a near-term level to watch, the bigger one being the 78.40, 78.50 zone, 50% retrace along with a longer dating extension. But for now, we'll watch that 38.78 handle largely to see if that's going to hold up as another lower high in the recent series. But with the US dollar index, again, we're getting a little bit of a pullback here in the dollar, but nevertheless, we're seeing this sort of consolidation phase going on. If you want to tack on some trend lines, maybe we could even call it a wedge pattern. But again, given the continuation pattern that we're seeing on the dollar, we'll remain bullish on the greenback, and still, again, approach will be to look for opportunities to buy dips here. So we'll see what's going to materialize. But one thing that I'll also watch is going to be that RSI signature here. I would really like to see the oscillator push back into overbought for a little bit more conviction that maybe we still have a further push to the upside before we see a larger correction on our hands. But again, with the Fed rhetoric on tap this week, we'll certainly keep a close ear on the news wires, and we'll see what we get from the Federal Reserve along with some of the ECB commentary on tap for later on this week. But of course, ahead of the G20 meeting, we'll see what's going to happen, especially with this ongoing theme of verbal intervention and of course, headlines suggestive of currency war. So we'll see again how market sentiment will take shape once we get through some of these key events. But later on this week, ECB, or more so the Eurozone third quarter GDP forecast, will certainly be in focus, as we'll look for, again, this growing threat for a double dip recession in the monetary union. But with that said, some caution again ahead of the BOE. My personal approach here, I'm not looking to touch any British pound crosses before we get through that event. So on that, guys, best of luck on all your trades. We'll continue to watch these near-term themes, and I'll be back tomorrow to review all this over again.